All right, good Wednesday to you, Tennessee Valley. A lot going on in the weather world today, especially out to our west where they're expecting a severe weather outbreak. Now, good news for us here locally. Southeast Tennessee, northwest Georgia, down into western North Carolina, northeast Alabama, all looking pretty quiet. Could have a few strong storms, and I'll get to that in a moment, but it's going to be more about the warm, breezy conditions that are going to settle in today. Yesterday, we had highs in the upper 60s, sunshine, really a picture-perfect day. Going to be about 15 degrees warmer today, so we'll start out in the 50s and 60s, end up in the low 80s from Athens down into Fort Payne, Lafayette, Dalton, Dayton. So just a very warm day. Our average high this time of year right around 70, so we are going to be about 10 to 15 degrees above that, and the winds are going to pick up. So essentially what's going on is we got this strong low pressure bringing a cold front across the southern plains this morning. We have high pressure just off the east coast, so there's going to be a pretty tight pressure gradient. When you get a tight pressure gradient, you get strong winds. That's what we're going to have today. Gusts upwards of 25, 30 miles per hour. Some of the ridge tops could have gusts over 35, 40 miles per hour. Probably stronger winds the further west you go along the Cumberland Plateau. And it's going to remain breezy even tonight, and that's going to be the trend the rest of the week. Breezy during the afternoon and evening, winds dying down a little bit each night. We do have wind advisories in effect for Sequatchie, Bledsoe, Van Buren, Grundy, Marion, Jackson and DeKalb counties, much of Middle Tennessee, and the East Tennessee mountains. And as we zoom out a little bit, you can see there's a lot going on this morning. We got dense fog advisories across South Georgia and the Panhandle of Florida. Flood watches in effect from really the Great Lakes all the way down to that corner of Southeast Texas, including Middle Tennessee. So this area where you see those green boxes, that's going to be the axis of heavy rain and really the storm potential over the next couple of days. And we zoom out even more, there are winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings to our north. So a little bit of everything for everyone today. If you like the cold side, you need to go closer to the Canadian border. If you like storm chasing, the middle of the country going to be good. If you like calm conditions, I think our neck of the woods pretty nice, especially for today. So here's a look at your satellite radar. Again, there's going to be a lot going on. So let's take a look at what is currently happening across the central part of the country. Again, we got this low pressure bringing cold front. That warm front surging to the north. So what this is going to do is lead to a very large warm sector. Again, that's where you see those severe storms thriving typically as we're pulling out that rich moisture from the Gulf. And that's going to continue. I mean, you can see the flow here. See how the clouds are moving in basically from south to north. That's that moisture being pulled straight out of the Gulf this morning. And you got that shear. So you got the mid-level clouds going almost due east. So you got that wind shear conflicting. And that's when we can start to see some of that rotation later on for places like Memphis, Jackson, Tennessee, up through St. Louis. And already a pretty strong line of storms coming up through parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, parts of Missouri in that warm sector. So we'll watch this area later. Again, if you have friends and family in the Memphis area, give them a call. Make sure they're ready to go today, because look at this. I mean, this is such a broad area of severe weather. So, of course, the red is level 4 out of 5. This is a high risk. So the highest risks for severe weather that the Storm Prediction Center can issue. So as we zoom in, again, Memphis, Jonesboro, Arkansas, Jackson, Tennessee, Paducah, Kentucky, Cape Girardeau up in Missouri, Paragould, Union City, Dyersburg, Ripley. Again, any of these areas, if you have friends and family in those areas, make sure they're ready to go. Yeah, every neighborhood not going to get hit with a severe storm, but there are going to be ingredients favorable for strong tornadoes in this area. As we zoom out even more, yeah, we have the marginal risk. I'm not expecting anything here locally. We may have an isolated storm or two this evening. I doubt it. It looks like the axis of heavy rain and storm potential stays along that frontal boundary, and it's kind of going to get hung up and then lift back to the north tomorrow morning. So I'm not expecting much, but broad area of severe potential. We're kind of going to miss out on this over the next couple of days. It's going to be very busy for the Mississippi River Valley, the Ohio Valley, parts of the Midwest, the Southern Plains, while we're kind of on the quiet side of things. So again, level 5 risk for those shaded in that purple zone across parts of West Tennessee. Now, as we take a look, again, I know this doesn't impact us as much, but it's good to know, especially if the forecast change or shifts any to the east, which I don't see happening today. But significant tornado threat going to take shape. Again, this doesn't mean everyone in this red box is going to see tornadoes. Some may not see severe weather at all. It just means ingredients are going to be most favorable in these areas. Again, you can never predict exactly where a tornado is going to hit hours in advance, but once we have the line developing and we start getting warnings, yeah, you can get a pretty good lead time on some of these storms. So Indianapolis, Lexington, Nashville, Memphis down to Pine Bluff, Little Rock. But notice for us, we don't have to worry about that. Again, that threat stays really Nashville westbound. So if you're traveling in those areas, just know it could get pretty rough later on. So as we take a look at the overlay of lightning, hail, shear, again, lightning in yellow, hail in that purple shade, and shear, or helicity, whatever you want to call it, which basically shows us where there may be rotation, you can see those swaths really starting to ramp up later this evening. So Memphis, Pine Bluff. But look what happened. So as we continue through the evening, you're like, oh, eventually this is going to arrive in the Tennessee Valley. Well, no, because that front is going to stall out and then bump back to the north. So it never comes through our area. And then tomorrow, it's going to flare back up as that frontal boundary is still going to be somewhere across Arkansas, Missouri, and Kentucky. There we go again. So the same areas that get hit with severe weather today could see it again tomorrow, and then maybe even again on Friday. So again, same areas, multiple rounds of severe weather, multiple rounds of heavy rain. But for us, just not going to be all that concerning, because as we take a look at your futurecast, this is our in-house model. Notice Chattanooga right there, and you can see North Georgia. Again, I zoom in briefly, maybe a couple showers. These could become strong. I don't think many of us will see rain today. I don't think many of us will see a drop of rain over the next couple of days. So you got the storms again firing up. Looks pretty nasty out there from Fort Wayne all the way down to parts of Mississippi. And you're like, uh-oh, here it comes. Well, by the time we get to midnight, it's approaching Nashville, yes, but we're still quiet here across the Tennessee Valley. But then things kind of put on brakes. So essentially we got this high pressure that's going to be somewhere out here in the Atlantic. That's going to be our kind of saving grace with this, because without that, this pattern could be more transient, and you would likely see this front either going further to the east or sweeping across the entire southeast. Well, that's not what's going to happen. As we get into your Thursday, it starts to lift back to the north. And along the boundary Thursday afternoon, you got it, where that air mass is colliding, and you get that warm air overriding this. You get more severe storms for places like Memphis and Nashville and up through the Midwest. That will continue for the next several days. So even through Friday, it'll happen again. Notice that front gets even further to the north. And yeah, for us, I mean, we're kind of, things are looking okay, which is good news for the Tennessee Valley, because as we fast forward to Friday, you can see, again, that front's pretty far to our north, still dry. And then as we finally get into late Saturday, we're going to continue to track out this line of storms. And sorry, I was looking at a note someone just slipped me. So by Sunday, finally, the pattern, the upper level pattern, starts to get a little more relaxed. That high pressure starts to shift further to the east. That allows this system to finally come through. So by Sunday morning, probably right around daybreak, we get this line of storms coming through. Could be some strong, severe storms, could be some heavy rain. That will continue through your church commute, your brunch plans, and maybe even through the afternoon before things clear out this evening. So that front finally comes through, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, much cooler. So we're talking near record highs to very cool temperatures heading into next week, maybe even the threat for some frost. So as we get into your Thursday, once again, we have the severe risk for the plateau, but not really expecting much. The higher risk, that level 2 risk, I know you see the 1, but it's only because I'm zooming out, actually going to be along that frontal boundary from Dallas all the way to Washington, while again, we're kind of just on the east side of things, which is going to be the calm side of things. And then the threat on Friday shifts even further to the west into central Texas, parts of Arkansas, Memphis again, and up through Ohio, Indiana. But for us, we don't even have the threat for thunderstorms at all on Friday. And then by the time we get into Saturday, Sunday, that system finally starts to get going. But look at that. You have that risk for severe weather across Memphis and parts of the Mid-South again. And then Sunday, again, it starts to move in our neck of the woods. So we at least have a slight risk for some severe weather as that front comes through on Sunday. But I mean, really considering what's to come for places off to our west, we're kind of dodging the worst of the weather. So that's certainly good for our neck of the woods. And also check out these rainfall amounts, because they're pretty insane. Okay, so as this comes through Sunday, we could pick up an inch or two of rain. We need it. But look at this. This is going to be another big concern. Yes, anytime you have the risk for multi-day severe weather outbreak, that's concerning. But this is also, if I was forecasting this for our area, I definitely would be a little bit worried about these rainfall totals. Let me see if I can. This is from the WPC, so I mean we're talking potential for 7 to 10 to maybe even 15 inches of rain in some of these areas in West Tennessee, up through Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, Arkansas, and for us, again, you can see just where that front is going to be located. That's where you can get the highest rain totals, where you're going to get the highest totals for, or the highest probability of severe weather. So as of now, and I don't see any major changes, with the exception of a few spotty strong storms today and tomorrow, we're really not going to see anything. Most of you are not going to see a drop of rain. It's going to be more about the warm, breezy conditions. In fact, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, will be in the upper 80s, maybe 90 degrees, close to record highs Thursday through Friday. Things change in a big way next week. Monday, Tuesday, highs in the 60s, low 60s here in the valley, mid 50s for some of the higher elevations. And the overall pattern trend looking ahead to really the second week of April, favoring below normal temperatures. And if we looked at the precipitation trend, it's favoring below normal precipitation values for much of the southeast as well. April is our peak severe weather season, so if that pattern holds for the next couple of weeks, severe weather not looking very likely through the middle of the month, which is good because as we get into our peak, we don't want that warm, moist air mass continually coming out of the Gulf. So if we get these series of fronts coming down, bringing in that cooler air, that's going to mitigate the severe threat, at least for the next couple of weeks, of course, after what happens through this weekend. So I'm talking next week especially, maybe even the following week if that pattern holds. So that's something we'll watch closely. Also, briefly want to talk about it. Some of you probably ready to plant your gardens. Well, Monday morning we'll wake up in the low 40s, mid 30s along the Cumberland Plateau. Tuesday morning, we'll go just before the sun comes up. Could drop down close to freezing in places like Murphy, Blue Ridge, maybe along the plateau. Mid 30s here in the valley. Patchy frost certainly possible Tuesday morning. And then again, Wednesday morning will be, in that upper 30, maybe mid 30 range, with a couple areas potentially dropping close to the freezing mark. So can't rule out frost Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, especially during the morning hours. Best chance for frost usually between about 4 and 8 o'clock, just as the sun's coming up. So we'll watch that pretty closely. Again, I'd probably hold off from planting any of those summer varietals until a little bit later on. But that's just another thing that we're going to have to kind of deal with. But like I said, that kind of eliminates that severe risk, at least in the short term. So here's a look at your 7-day forecast. Again, if this was for Memphis, Tennessee, it would look completely different. We wouldn't be talking storm. But for us here, with the exception of a few spotty storms today and tomorrow, it's going to be nice and calm. Breezy, warm each day. We'll have those daily gusts up to 30 to 35, probably through the weekend. Highs in the upper 80s, lower 90s, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Front finally comes through Sunday, giving us some rain through the early afternoon, especially in the morning. Temperatures will start to drop that night, and then by next week, of course, we'll have highs 50s, 60s, and overnight lows back into the 30s. So we're not done with the cold just yet. It's coming back, but in the short term, things are going to be relatively quiet here across the Tennessee Valley. So get out there, enjoy the next couple of days. Also, pollen count's going to be high, tree pollen off the charts. So plan for that if you have any outdoor plants.